Hey guys, so today you and I are going to talk about ambitions, not having them and wanting a good pay. So let's get into it. So the question in question was, Fredrik, is it wrong if I'm not that ambitious but I still want a well-paying job? And the short answer is no. I wouldn't say that that's wrong by any means. That is usually how it goes for the vast majority of people who have no higher purpose than making it to the next weekend. Let me explain. So the general consensus, I would say, in our society is that most people have this idea. Like the vast majority of people are just really interested in having a job or a career that they're sort of happy with and that pays well. Ideally, of course, as much as possible, but there's always a balancing act to everything. That's usually how it goes. It's very rare that people are ambitious, that they really want to stretch it. Now, the problem, though, is that when you want to be a software engineer, it's a lot harder to get the job if you're not ambitious. It's not hard to keep it if you have the skills to keep it and still not be all that ambitious, but it's hard to get the first one. Let me explain that a little bit because it might sound a little bit confusing. You see, there are so many developers that I know who have no ambition whatsoever to go as far as possible within software engineering. And because there's different tracks in software engineering. You have some developers who they're really interested in coding. They really love the technical challenges. They really want to stretch their knowledge as far as possible and really work at it and become masters of the code. These are usually the people that we think of as being the most passionate, enthusiastic, But there are also programmers who are not really that interested in coding. They like having a life outside, like outside of the terminal. They like to think of things such as kids and maybe becoming a manager or something like that. They want to progress their career, of course, but they don't want to sit and code for the rest of their life, if that makes sense. I've met many of these and they're doing just fine. Because just because you start off as a programmer, that doesn't mean that you have to stay a programmer for your entire career. In these scenarios, you usually find programmers being, well, I wouldn't say that they're not ambitious. They are ambitious to a point, but they're not ambitious in the traditional sense we think of when we talk about programmers, because usually the stereotype of what an ambitious programmer looks like is this code nerd that just all they do is do programming, and if they're not programming things, they're making compilers. If they're not making compilers, they're learning mathematics or advanced calculus or algebra, or they're super nerds. That's the general consensus, I think, for most people. So these people who are just, let's call them not less ambitious, but they're ambitious in a different fashion. They are also ambitious to a point, but then you of course have these people who are like, they really don't care. Like as this person was saying, like they don't even have that part. They're not even interested in you becoming a manager or something like that, and they really just want to clock in and clock out, and then that's the whole story. Now there is an enormous amount of these sorts of programmers, and these are the sorts of programmers that you hire as a company when you can't find the other two. So let's call these three types let's call it that there are these three types just for simplicity's sake, and the first two are ambitious in different fashions. So that's usually the sort of people that the startups want to hire. It's usually the people that everybody says are the rock stars, or the people that everybody wants, pretty much the people that you hear everybody promoting that they want to hire. Now, the people who are left are the people, as you were saying, like they really only care about, like they don't really negotiate hard to move up in the company or things like that. They're mostly just focused on, I know how to write software and I I'm just going to have a job and that's it, right? Now, the reason why I'm stating that it's easy for you to stay in that mindset when you're on the inside is because once you have acquired the skills to actually just make it as a experienced developer. You don't have to be a senior, you just have to be able to produce without a lot of extra assistance. You have to get into that sweet spot of experience, if that makes sense. Now the sweet spot is usually, depending on how good you are, 1 to 5 years. I would say 2 years, 2 to 5 years there-ish, if you want to be really stable, fairly stable. And once you're in that spot, you have all the knowledge you need to just kind of produce, which means that you can become very easily a cog in the clock. A cog, you're just a cog, and you just keep on spinning. That's it. There's no churn when you're working within the company, which is a great thing for many companies. You're not necessarily required to stand out as these ambitious people. You just have to do your job and you're going to get paid. You can't expect much other than that, but there you are. That's your whole goal, right? Now the problem with this is that when you're starting out, you don't have that experience. You're not stable. You need assistance from people, and you're depending on that someone is going to take a risk on you to hire you as a junior developer. They're going to have to train you or provide some environment where you can practice until you are stable. And when you're in that stage, it's much harder for you to just be this kind of unambitious, apathetic person who doesn't really care. Because nobody wants to hire someone like that. If you're going to invest in a junior developer, you want a junior who is ambitious. You want a junior who is interested, who's passionate about learning and really wants to do well. They need to have a bit of hunger in order for you to feel that, yeah, this is a good junior to invest in. Because when you're in the buying stage, or when you're trying to acquire a junior, you're looking for someone who's going to maximize your return on investment. And if you're not ambitious, if you can't communicate that you're hungry, it's going to be very hard for you to get that first job or to get to stay in a company, unless you're extremely talented, of course. So I would say that it's fine to not be ambitious for your entire career, but you should at the very least try to start out that way, because it makes it much easier for you to get into the inside. And once you're on the inside of the IT industry and you're stable, yeah, unless there's going to be a massive recession or a very large shortage of jobs anytime, well, if that happens, you might be in a risk zone. But for the most part, I think that you're going to be pretty fine, because most of the really large companies that are very stable, I mean, they are scooping up programmers by the truckload, and they cannot just get the best of the best, like the passionate, ambitious types that I was talking about, because these people usually are looking for more than just a paycheck. So what I want you to take away from this is that it is fine for you to not be ambitious or stuff. I mean, I personally think it's the greatest thing in the world, but I understand that there are people out there who really just wants to, focus on their hobbies at home that are not coding related, or spend time with the family, the girlfriend, the boyfriend, etc., etc. And they don't want to sit every day and study and make weird YouTube videos or coding videos and stuff like that, or whatever other developers are doing in their spare time. And that's fine. And you are able to get a job, I promise you that. You're not going to have the pick of the litter. You're not going to just be able to pick wherever you want to go, depending on your attitude towards software, of course. If you're a very sociable person, you can still make it. But you should be aware of that it is easier to get into the industry in the beginning of things if you are ambitious and you show passion, because that's the sort of people that companies want to hire for a junior position. Once you're stable, you have a few years of experience and you know how to do the things that you need in order to do your job, then it doesn't matter as much, because now you're able to produce. So so that companies will hire you just because you have seniority or you have experience. And that's pretty much all there is to it. Have a great day.